5.5 million people are living with Alzheimer's, and as more people are diagnosed with it, more caregivers, whether it's the children, a spouse, or a friend, will need to learn how to deal with it and help their loved one deal with it. The daughter of President Ronald Reagan speaks out about how she helped her dad and how you can help the one you love. He survived an assassination attempt.
Tear down this wall.
But the man who reigned as the most powerful person on earth for 2 terms could not beat Alzheimer's.
I didn't lose a president. I lost my father.
Patty Davis was known as the contentious first daughter, but for her father's last years, she took on another role, caregiver.
I know what a lonely passage it is.
That's why she's spearheading an Alzheimer's support group.
The grieving process really starts from the moment of diagnosis.
She says, most importantly, save yourself.
It starts to feel like a prison. It starts to feel like this defines you.
Do whatever it is that brings you joy, even if it's just for 30 minutes. Psychologist Linda Ercole counsels caregivers with Patty at UCLA.
A support group is essential because you can't always talk to your friends.
Missy Donnelly takes part in one to help her as the disease slowly takes away her husband.
This is the worst thing that has ever happened to us.
Pat was diagnosed 4 years ago. His short-term memory is fading. Missy says by talking with others, dealing with the same thing, it helped her understand what he's going through.
It's one of those things where you can't look at it and say, well, we're going to get over this, and then things will get better. It's not, we're going to get through it, and we're going to have a great time doing it.
Now, Patty concentrates on memories of the man she knew before the disease.
I remember my father younger and not sick. I remember him riding horses. I remember him out in the ocean teaching me to body surf waves that looked as big as buildings.
And new studies show music therapy can be a key tool for caregivers. Researchers have found that when all other means of communication have shut down, people with dementia can still remember and respond to music. Well, November is National Alzheimer's Awareness Month. Currently, there is no cure for the disease that develops slowly. Oftentimes, early symptoms are written off as just a part of aging. Our next guest is Dr. Mary DiBartolo, Associate Professor of Nursing at Salisbury University. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, you have a personal connection with Alzheimer's. Tell us about your mother.
Yes, my mother was diagnosed with the disease back in 1990, and she passed away in 1997 with the disease. A little earlier from something else, but unfortunately many people live until the bitter end in terms of being totally dependent in all their activities of daily living and bedbound and such.
So you kind of took it on as a personal
mission, to educate people about the disease, and of course, being in the healthcare field, and I try to keep up with all the research that's going on, and a lot of that now is focusing on not finding a cure so much, but more how to prevent or delay it, and of course how to better take care of people with dementia.
Well, first of all, what is Alzheimer's disease?
Well, it's a progressive neurological or brain disease that causes problems with memory, mostly short-term initially, long-term is a little bit later on in the disease, but thinking, behavior, judgment, and it is not a part of normal aging. We're still trying to get that message out, and it's just very important to get an early diagnosis when you start seeing the signs.
Right, and there are 10 signs to look for, and we're going to show them here. The first one, like you mentioned, memory loss that disrupts daily life.
Right, more short-term memory. We function on that, and of course you may see trouble driving, and people getting lost, leaving the house, having difficulty getting back. Challenges in problem solving and just some of the daily living things like managing a checkbook, maintaining a household, that kind of thing, difficulty completing familiar tasks. Misplacing things, losing the ability to retrace your steps, as I mentioned, driving, as I said, becomes particularly dangerous. Trouble understanding visual images, spatial relationships, poor judgment, and sometimes just saying inappropriate things, disinhibition, saying things that aren't appropriate, taking food off other people's plates, just little signs like that. And as people realize something's going awry, they start withdrawing from their usual social activities because they know something's not quite right.
Right. What are the causes, or are there any risk factors for Alzheimer's?
Well, they're still looking for a cause, and they're finding out that Alzheimer's is much more complex than they ever thought. You know, it involves what we call the plaques and tangles, you know, protein deposits. The brain actually shrinks. There's changes in chemicals. So that's one reason why it's just still looking for what is the actual cause. And there are definitely some risk factors, and of course the number one is just advancing age, just getting older. You know, only 1% of cases are caused by that direct genetic link, and that's only in cases where you get it much earlier, like in your 30s, 40s, or 50s.
Right, and you were saying vascular disease or vascular indications.
Yeah, there is a segment of Alzheimer's. Well, it's not Alzheimer's, it's called vascular dementia. People that have heart health risk factors, high blood pressure for years and things like that. So that's why there's a lot of emphasis on what's good for the heart is also good for the brain. That meaning, you know, good diet, Mediterranean diet, exercise, you know, not smoking, and now there's more and more evidence about the importance of physical exercise and brain exercise, keeping your mind active.
Right, so can it be prevented, or is it just delaying it?
Well, there's still a lot of research going on to establish that. I mean, we know we can try to hedge our bets a little bit with a lot of these healthy behaviors which benefit people overall anyway in terms of heart health and such. But the research is still going on in larger scale studies, and actually a lot of the research is also emphasizing how to better take care of people with dementia, because it doesn't look like there's a cure around the corner.
Right, right. All right, good information, Dr. DiBartolo. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
And sticking with your health, sudden cardiac arrest is a leading cause of deaths in the United States. Do you know how to perform CPR? Our next guest shows us why you should know how. Delmarva Life at its best here on Delmarva.